probably about as bad a performance that I've ever seen in my time as a West Ham fan certainly at London Stadium in the Premier League, I've got to say that. So it finished West Ham United 0, Brentford 2. There's not really too much good to take out of it, let's be completely honest with you guys and girls. It was pretty pathetic, I think it's fair to say, from minute 10 onwards. The first 10 minutes I thought we were quite bright and sprightly, and then it just went downhill rapidly from there. Let's talk about a few things that were ahead of the opening whistle, though, shall we? The first thing I want to talk about is the team selection. So the team selection come out. There was a couple of changes that I think jumped off the page at most people straight away. Was the change at fullback in both sides of the defensive unit as it goes. So obviously El Hadji Malik Diouf, he got led a bit of a merry dance against Arsenal, but I think there's a lot of fullbacks that are going to get torn to shreds at the Emirates. Let's not kid ourselves. But he was dropped out, as was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And coming in was Ollie Skiles and Skiles Walker-Peters, who I think most people would have thought would have been deployed on the right for Walker-Peters and on the left for Ollie Skiles. Obviously, when the game kicked off, it became quickly apparent that they were on the opposite flanks to what probably most people would have expected. There was also the inclusion of Jean-Claire Todibo, who I think probably most people thought his West Ham career was probably done, but he started in the game last night, much most people's surprise. Now, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, or I was at the time. Now I might have a slightly different opinion on things, but at the time I was trying to find reasons for those changes, and I think probably the only thing I could come up with was that maybe some of the players that were away on international duty maybe came back with a little niggle here and there, that they were a little bit leggy, and that the players in Todibo and Skiles and Walker-Peters, obviously them not getting called up for international duty so much, that maybe they impressed in training, and that was probably the reason for their inclusion. Whether that was the case or not, I don't know. But as I say, they came in. Souček came back in. I think a lot of people probably could see that one coming, but probably what a lot of people didn't see coming was that after 3 managers and 780 days at the club, Andy Irving makes his first home Premier League start. I don't know. Look, when he's played, I think he's looked okay, and I do think he's got a pretty good delivery on a set piece on him, but it was a bit of a strange one, I got to say, to see him there. And then obviously the rest of the team pretty much took care of itself. Paquetá, Bowen, Fernandes and Paquetá. Now the question was who was playing at striker, and again that became apparent as the game unfolded. Now, before I go too much further, there's probably, if you've got this far, possibly some people that are sitting there thinking, who the hell's this? This isn't Gonzo, this isn't Gio, this is someone much less good looking. But anyway, my name's Gatesy. I inhabit another West Ham fan YouTube channel called the West Ham Massive. I'm sure the guys will put a link in the description below, and if you could pop over to there and if you could give us your support, I really would appreciate it. Please don't forget to drop a like on this stream and give us a hype if you can spare one this week. Share it on your social media platforms, and don't forget to click subscribe. And if you've done all of those things and you're a long-standing fan of what Gio and Gonzo try to do on this channel, why don't you consider supporting them further by checking out patreon.com/hammers chat, and that way you can look to maybe give them some extra support. It's really good value for money. It's an absolute sort of giveaway. As far as there are giveaways as well that they do, interestingly enough. So get yourself over at patreon.com/hammerschat and give the boys your support. So back to what I wanted to talk about. So that was the starting lineup. The other thing I want to talk about that was apparent before the opening whistle was the boycott. Now, look, I stayed away. I watched it at home on the telly. I'm not going to call people out that made a different decision. We're all grown-ups. We can all walk our own path, and we can do what we feel is right or wrong. My alignment with the protest was I fundamentally agree with the objectives of the protest and the boycott. Other people made a different decision, and that's completely fine, no problem. On the telly, it looked like there was it didn't really look like there was a boycott, if I'm being completely honest, from what I could see initially. As the game progressed, I could see that there were rows and pockets and little areas where there was no no fans in attendance. But then again, let's be honest, it's a Monday night game that's on the telly during the school holidays. There probably would have been empty seats anyway, truth be told. But anyway, whether it was a success or whether it was maybe a little bit of a disappointment, I guess you'd have to talk to people at Hammers United for what they consider to be a par score. I had it in my mind that probably about if we get a third of the home support to stay away, in my head I considered that to be a win, and anything beyond that was a bonus. I don't think that we did hit a third from what I could see, but I don't know. I'm sure that will become out in the fullness of time. We start the game, as I say, quite energetic, quite sort of on the front foot. We had a corner within 30 seconds. What's not to like? Somerville looked bright. He was trying to sort of take on his opposite number. He was running at the opposition. By the time 10 minutes had elapsed, then things started to turn very, very slightly, but surely over time. And then by the time we hit the 20-minute mark, the momentum had fully shifted and Brentford were the team on top. They were dominating us. They were playing with us like a cat plays with a half-dead mouse, and they had us exactly where they wanted us. They were dominating us physically. They were first to the ball. Their passes were asking questions of us that, quite simply, I don't think we had the answer to on regular enough occasions. And the passes that we made, such so they were, just seemed to be quite aimless from where I was sitting. Didn't really seem to have an objective behind them. It was just a sort of cursory sort of boot forwards. That's how it seemed to me anyway. There didn't really seem to be much in the way of a plan in terms of a strategy. Then we get to the goal. Igor Thiago, now he was signed a year ago as the replacement for Ivan Toney, and he got an injury in pre-season, and basically his season was wiped out last season. He's come back in. My God, he looks a handful. Why can't we sign players like this? 30 million quid thereabouts from Club Brugge. Why is it we can't pick up these players that nobody's really heard of and bring them in and polish them up? And because I will tell you this, he will move on from Brentford and he will be more than 30 million quid. Brentford will make a profit on this player. I am almost convinced this player will go for more than 30 million quid when his time at the G-Tech is done. And we do it completely the opposite way. We will buy an old knackered striker like a Nicholas Fulkrug and spend, depending upon reports, between 19 and 27 million pounds on this geezer, and we're not going to make any profit on him at all. In fact, his output on the pitch has been absolutely woeful. I mean, he wasn't included last night, but it's just a general point that I'm making, that our transfer strategy is absolutely shot to pieces. We're very, very good, because people will turn around and say, people that are not West Ham fans and don't really sort of watch what we get up to, will turn around and just look at the balance sheet and go, well, you spend a lot of money on transfers. And it's like, yes, we do. We spend a lot of money on transfers. We spend a lot of money on player wages, but they're no good. They're no good. They are knackered players. They're players that are past their prime. They're players that are injury prone. They're players that are just not worth the money that we're paying out. We've become good at spending money on bad players, and we've got very bad at spending money on good players. Our transfer strategy is absolutely awful, and it's been that way for some considerable time, and it's a slow drip effect, and now all of a sudden we've got this pool of players that are just patently not up to the mark, and that is why we're in the situation we're in. We've spent an awful lot of money on rubbish, and I'm being very polite there. I don't want to swear and whatever, but you can probably work out the word that if you wanted to be a little bit more adult in your terminology, you could put in whatever adjective you want, not a problem. We'll just call them rubbish. Thiago scores the goal. He bullies our back line. It's a ball played forward. I think it was Henderson. I can't remember, but it was a ball. And Gio talked about the tactic of they would very often clip a ball over the top and get it sort of like that, as Jeff Boycott says in cricket terminology, the corridor of uncertainty. Pop it in just there, get the back line and the goalkeeper panicking a little bit. The ball was played in there exactly where it needed to be. The ball ends up at the feet of Thiago. He takes the shot. Areola gets his hands to it, but the ball carries on its trajectory towards the goal. You've got Walker-Peters, who's on the goal line, but he's completely wrong-footed. The ball spins into the back of the net, 1-0, and they're off. And Thiago almost got a second goal. He was ruled out by offside by the smallest of margins, a negligible amount. Okay, factually it's offside, but we got away with that. but we got battered in that first half, and for us to only go in 1-0 was a result as far as I'm concerned. I dare say Brentford and Keith Andrews would have been sitting there sort of thinking that all West Ham need is to carve out an opportunity, and that could take the 3 points that they've currently got away from them. But you know what? That result was never in doubt. It really wasn't. The triple substitution at half time was basically Nuno admitting that he'd got that team selection in the first half completely wrong, and it didn't make us any better, let's be completely honest. But the triple substitution was, he removed Skiles, he removed Walker-Peters, he removed Mateus Fernandes. And Fernandes, 40 million quid investment, I've not been overly impressed so far, I've got to say. He needs to sharpen up. And then you've got the introduction of Mavropanos, Diouf and Wan-Bissaka. We went to 3 centre-backs, 5 at the back. It didn't improve us any jot at all, not at all. I'd actually say there's an argument to say it made us worse. Callum Marshall was introduced a short time after that, and the really strange one for me is the 5th and final substitution, because what was that? There was 25 minutes on the clock, something like that. 25 minutes on the clock at that point. We've made 4 substitutions. We're 1-0 down at home against a team that I think you could probably say are a relegation rival. And I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say this, Brentford fans. You're not going to be pushing for European football. You're probably going to be very fortunate if you finish in the top half. You're a mediocre team, but you've made us look far, far worse than you. And good luck to Brentford, don't get me wrong. It's a damning indictment on us. But that 5th and final substitution, you're looking and you're thinking, well, we need a goal. We need a goal. We need to get at least a point here to get anything out of this game, which we probably don't deserve, but we'll take what we can get in this situation. We need a goal. And you look at the bench and you can see who's the goal scorer. It's as plain as the nose on your face. Callum Wilson. Whether you think he's past his prime or not, he's the only player that was on that bench at that moment in time, because Callum Marshall had already been introduced. Callum Wilson's the only one there that really has a realistic prospect of getting you a goal. He had to be the 5th substitution. Oh no, I'm going to bring on Guido Rodriguez to try and sort of salvage this situation. I'm sorry, I just don't understand the logic in that. I mean, I tried to understand the logic in the starting lineup selection and why certain players might have been picked and all that. I've tried to play devil's advocate there. I'm just looking and going, that is shocking. Absolutely shocking decision making by Nuno. I don't know what he's thinking. I really don't. I don't know what he's thinking. How the hell is Guido Rodriguez as your last substitution at 1-0 down against a relegation rival? How is he going to turn this situation around? He's not. He hasn't got the skills to do that. It's not his thing. It made no sense to me. The game, we could have lost that game 5, 6, 7-0 quite easily. As it was, we got away with conceding a second goal in the dying embers of the game. It was, again, you just look at the goal and we just get carved open, and I think it was Jensen that scored it. He's standing there virtually on the penalty spot when he receives the ball, and he's just gone, thanks very much. He's blasted it past Areola, who didn't really stand a chance. We're made to look what we are, and that is a team that at the minute is going down the gurgler. We're heading towards the championship. I'm sorry to say, we need to improve very, very quickly, but we've now put ourselves in a spot where the game against Leeds now becomes a must-win. A draw now, even ordinarily a point away at Elland Road, you'd turn your nose up at it. That's not good enough for us. It's not, because we're on 4 points now with 8 games gone, and we've got to go there and win. We've put ourselves in that position, and Elland Road is not an easy place to go at the best of times. Under the lights on a Friday night, and they've just lost their last game. They're going to be well up for this, and I don't really see that we've got any leadership out there. There's nobody out there that I think has the courage, the determination, the will to win, the desire that we need and desperately need. There's just no leaders out there. As I say, we've over many years now, over many transfer windows, have got very good at spending an awful lot of money on players that are just not good enough. And that continual underinvestment in quality, not underinvestment in finances, because we've spent an awful lot of money. So I'm not saying it's an underinvestment in finances, because the money that we've spent has been absolutely monumental. But the underinvestment in people, in what we need, is just, it's there for all to see. I would absolutely take, right here, right now, I would take 17th in the Premier League on the last day by 1 goal. I'd take it right now. I'd snap your arm off for it, because at the minute we're going down. We've been beaten by Sunderland. We've been beaten by Brentford. This doesn't bode well for what we've got left of the Premier League season. But I wish there was good things to tell you. I wish I could turn around and say probably the only bright spot I could say is Somerville. I think he looked bright. He looked energetic. But even he was starting to get frustrated at the end. And I thought he's probably going to get himself sort of a second yellow card if he carries on. Mavropanos come off injured. I'm also not too sure that Somerville himself might have picked up a knot, so he might be out of the Leeds game. It's not good. Absolutely not good. Where do we go from here, guys? I really don't know. I wish I could sort of map it out, but at the minute I think we've got some very strange decisions being made by the manager. We've got a hierarchy up top who've just completely just lost the plot. We've got players that are patently not good enough, and the fans are now starting to lose a little bit of heart, and this is not a good recipe for success. It really isn't. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the section below. Give us a like, give us a hype, and make sure you subscribe to Hammers Chat. And as I say, check out their Patreon on patreon.com/Hammers Chat. And I'll see you next time. Come on, you irons.